Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Geek webinar on generative AI as a utility will empower SaaS businesses. I'm your host, Sukriti. Thank you so much for joining in. Now, generative AI has emerged as a groundbreaking technology in very recent years, enabling machines to understand and generate human-like content. Now, by leveraging OpenAI's advanced language models, SaaS businesses can actually unlock many possibilities to enhance their offerings and provide exceptional value to their users. In today's webinar, we will dive into the direct and indirect applications of OpenAI in SaaS, specifically in the domains of Martech, search engines, and recommendation systems. We will also uncover the potential of generative AI to empower SaaS businesses in automating content creation, streamlining marketing efforts, and delivering personalized user experiences. Folks, you'll also gain valuable insights into constructing robust search engines that offer more accurate and relevant results by harnessing the language models provided by OpenAI. Our speakers will also tell you about how leveraging recommendation systems powered by generative AI is to offer personalized product suggestions, enhancing customer satisfaction and driving revenue growth. We will also see some of these live demos of a few applications and features that the OpenAI has built on top of AI, and a few do's and don'ts will also be shared by our speakers from their own experience while creating these. To facilitate the session, I have with me Prakhar, who is the Senior Vice President Engineering, and Kesharee Nandan Vishwakarma, who is the Director AI at Netcore and Unboxed. Prakhar has more than 16 years of experience in analytics, data science, and engineering across industries. He has co-founded Box.ai, and he also has 10+ years of experience in predictive modeling, search matching, algorithms, simulation, and optimization. He's proficient in setting up high-performance MLA analytics teams and digital marketing optimizations through predictive analytics tool across channels, that is SEO, SEM, SMOs, affiliates, email, etc. He's experienced in behavioral targeting, attrition analysis, customer lifetime value, and fraud detection and prevention. Our second speaker, Kesharee, is an experienced professional with a primary focus on solving common product discovery problems like data pipelines, AI pipelines, full text search, information retrieval, semantic search, information extraction using ML toolkits like Kubeflow, TensorFlow, Keras, Skitlearn, etc., and search engines like Lukin, Sol, and Elasticsearch. Now, he's well versed with building AI and data workflows from scratch to solve big data and ML model lifecycle management use cases at scale. He's worked in designing and implementing end-to-end search ML microservices. Audience, please note that the session scheduled for an hour will have 40 to 45 minutes for the presentation and the remaining 15-20 minutes for Q&A. So in case if you have any questions, you can send them to us using the questions tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. Now, without much ado, I will hand over the session to our guest speakers for today to take it forward. Over to you, Prakhar.
Thanks, Sukriti. So good afternoon, everyone. So before we start, I want to take a moment to express our sincere thanks to each and every one of you for taking the time to join this webinar. I'm sure you had things to do, and we hope to make it worth your while. So in next 1 hour, our goal is to create an engaging and informative session that leaves you equipped with at least few practical takeaways with respect to generative AI and its applications in SaaS world. So yeah, let's get started. So Sukriti already made an introduction, so I'll be very brief. So hi, I am Prakhar. I passed out from IIT Bombay in 2005, and for last 17 years, I have been in several roles in machine learning, data science, technology, and product, both in small startups as well as big conglomerates. I was also started a couple of my own companies, the last of which was Box.ai, which got acquired by Netcore in 2019. And since then, I have been part of Netcore family as SVP engineering. Along with me is Kesharee.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Prakhar. So I'm delighted to be here for today's webinar. And my name is Kesharee, and I'm the director of AI at Unboxed Netcore. And I have over 8 years of experience and majorly focused towards product discovery and Martech. And over past few years in the Unboxed and as well as in HD Media and InfoEdge, I have been able to work majorly in search recommendations and complex use cases that revolve around them using real-time machine learning, data science, and data engineering tasks. Right. So, and throughout the time, I have also seen a lot of systems being rebuilt and built from scratch. I've done some of them myself, and and it's very interesting the way the world has changed. Revolving around generative AI, and we'll basically like to go into all the use cases that we are solving here at Netcore Unboxed. Over to you, Prakhar.
Thanks, Kesharee. So as for agenda, we'll be spending first 5 minutes or so in introduction to generative AI. I mean, not that it needs any, but still just to set the context, right? And then we'll go through few use cases of generative AI. Few of them are very direct and obvious use cases, and few of them a bit indirect, just to see the spectrum of problems that it can solve. But we'll spend the majority of time in going through few live demos, that we have prepared for this webinar. We'll start off with simple use cases to create content, and then we'll move to a bit more complicated case of introducing, say, conversational layer on top of any product feature that you have using generative AI. And after that, we'll again talk about fine-tuning your own model over ChatGPT so that the results are more and more accurate. And along while we will be discussing all these use cases, we will also be touching upon various limitations that Gen AI has, right? And how do we solve them, especially when we have to take all these features live into the production and it has to work at scale. And in the last 15 minutes, we'll open the floor for the questions, and I really encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and share your thoughts to make that session more and more interactive. Yeah, so basically generative AI, I mean, it has truly taken the world by storm, right? It has changed the way we communicate, work, and innovate. ChatGPT had like 100 million registered users within first 2 weeks of launch. Never seen anything like that. It was everywhere, right? Everywhere. So I follow a few financial influencers, and they were making videos on asking ChatGPT to pick stocks to maximize their profits. And what rank ChatGPT would get if it, say, appeared in ITJ exams or UPSC exams. Lots of memes, funny images made by DALI and whatnot. In fact, most of the presentation that you see today, that is also been made by OpenAI. And we were all having fun, but it was also having a very serious business impact at the same time. Right? So several businesses, they shut overnight because ChatGPT made them outdated, and that too very suddenly. But more importantly, SaaS business got its hand on a tool which they can use to make their products better. They can use to make their products smarter, and they can roll it out much, much faster. And see, I mean, it has blasted into the scene in last few months, but Gen AI has been there for a few years initially, for a few years now, right? I mean, chatbots have been there for decades, but initially it used to be, run by rule-based systems, and now as ML and AI evolved, we generally moved into more and more probabilistic models, and now to deep learning and neural-based models. And that coupled with the fact that now we have huge computational ability at our disposal, generative AI has experienced a remarkable evolution in last few months. And just see at few of the key facts. Right? So obviously it's neural network based transformer model, to be very precise, which learns patterns from extensive training data set, and it creates new content. And when I say training data set, humongous training data set, I mean, it's known to be in the orders of hundreds of terabytes of text data, and a diverse range of sources as well, right? Including books, articles, websites, and other publicly available text from the internet. And the result is like unprecedented scale. ChatGPT, based on 3.5, has 175 billion parameters, and not ChatGPT 4 has come up, and people are saying that it has, I mean, it's in trillions, right? So I mean, that is like amazing. And obviously it has multilingual support, so you can interact with it using multiple languages. Yeah, Kesharee, next slide, please. Yeah. So tons and tons of use cases that it can help solve, right? But before we get into particulars and we showcase you a few of the demos that we have made, let's just see the range of problems that it can help us solve. So content generation is the most obvious, right? It can create high quality content at fraction of a cost. It can generate high quality text, images, videos, and other media, helping businesses produce engaging marketing materials, website content, blog posts, and social media updates, slides for PPT, research paper, white paper, and whatnot. And Netcore is a Martech company, and first use case that we implemented after OpenAI was email subject line generator and the email content generator. Right? Gen AI can also assist in designing user interfaces and user experiences. It can generate UI components, layout suggestions, and even the entire website layouts and prototypes. So this really speeds up the design processes, enables rapid iteration, and results in visually appealing and user-friendly interfaces, right? And on the more creative side, it can also generate music, artwork, movie scripts, and whatnot. On personalization, Gen AI can enhance personalization in SaaS applications, right? It can analyze user data and preference, and it can generate personalized recommendations, tailored search results, and customized user interfaces. While doing so, this improves the user experience and it increases, customer engagement and retention, and at the end of it, drives more and more revenue. NLP and conversational interfaces. So this is a big one, right? So basically, you can add a conversational layer on top of any product feature that you have and make it more intuitive and more interactive. And it can be anything. It can be, say, support, it can be search, it can be FAQs, even training data for, say, interns or new joinees, right? And even dashboards. So we'll be showcasing a couple of these features in our demo. Next, moving on to a few indirect use cases. So data augmentation and analysis. So all the ML guys will relate to this and they understand the pain. And so right now, the majority of time and effort in building ML models, it goes into data collection and data preparation, right? And Gen AI can really help a lot in that regard. So you can feed in some limited data sets that you have and then ask ChatGPT to create more synthetic and similar data. So what you get is increase in the size of the data and also the diversity of a data set, and which really helps a lot in your training module and creating better machine learning models. Customer support and chatbots, it's again like one of the most obvious use cases, and most of the companies are doing that. So feed into OpenAI all your support documents, FAQs, product documentation, and then you have a virtual assistant ready to go, and which can interact in multiple languages as well. Data analysis and insights, right? So it can really help SaaS businesses analyze and derive insights from large volumes of data. It can assist in data cleaning, recognizing the pattern in the data set, and generating visualization also. So it enables businesses to extract valuable information from the plethora of data that they have and make data-driven decisions. And last on, but not the least, assistance in coding. You can ask it to write code in several languages, give it a piece of code and ask to debug it and optimize it for performance. And a few days back, I saw one member in my team. He asked, ChatGPT to write a code and then pressed optimize it 5 times. And then I asked him why is he doing that. He said, if I ask it to optimize 5 times, then it really writes a very optimized piece of code. So I don't know about that, but still it's a very good functionality to have for training and for trying few new things out. Right? So yeah, now moving to use cases and demos. So we'll start off with SLG, which is the subject line generator. So as I said before, Netcore is into Martech, and one of the first feature that we redid, so we already had that feature, but we redid this feature after the launch of OpenAI, was this subject line generator. So if you are a marketer and you have to create any campaign, you can give just a simple and sample subject line and ask it for options. So it will give you similar subject lines with higher chances of success, right? And when I say success for email, that is a higher open rate or higher click rate. And then you can also refine it further by asking it to generate the subject lines in few selected tones. Yeah. So now we'll move on to the demo. So handing it over, Kesharee.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Prakhar. So as Prakhar said, so email marketing is basically a very vital part of customer engagement strategy, and a particular subject line can actually be the decider on whether the email is actually opened or it ends up in the trash, right? So basically, like what we are doing here is I'll give you a very short demo, right? And for example, if I were to type in, let's say, Diwali offers on kurtas, right? So, or rather, let's say Black Friday sale, don't miss out, something like that, right? And so first of all, like whatever I type, right? So what we are doing is we are also pulling in the insights. So it doesn't seem to be matching any of those insights. And what I can now do is, based on these insights that we have seen from our database, that if these insights are present, then the subject lines are basically having a higher chance of higher open rate, higher click rate, and basically higher engagement score overall. So as you can see, like the generative AI model has suggested, don't miss out on our Black Friday sale, and with some emojis as well, right? And Black Friday alert, unbeatable deals inside. So it can totally, help you rewrite the subject lines that you are sending, and that this can actually drive a lot of conversion. And I can also set the tone of the subject lines. So if I wanted to make it more humorous, so the generative AI model will basically be able to generate such humorous subject lines now. And as you can see, the insights are also increasing. And along with all the insights, so once we get the generative AI suggestions, after that, our emotion detection model triggers, and basically that also understands what exactly are these emotions, and like how, where will the email land on, and like what is the length, what is the scannability, what is the comprehensibility. All these things were already there, but what we've done right now is like we have basically introduced something that is letting the customers automatically generate these subject lines, right? So yeah, and I'll now go into how basically we have implemented this. And uh, so going over the design of it, right? So the first thought that we had was, like we have all this data and netcore database, basically like all this data setting, and like we have segment level data, we have customer level data, we have vertical level data, right? And how do we exactly use that data to personalize the campaigns, right? So whenever a user input comes in, like a subject line or title, right? So what we want to do here is basically we want to understand the insights for that segment, for that user group, and for that insight we are actually able to converse with the conversational models, GPT models. And even so, like when we do it with fine-tuned models, we are actually able to automatically get those insights driven suggestions for subject lines. So here the GPT model that you see is the fine-tuned version of it. And once we get the subject lines with the confidence scores, we are actually able to use our in-house model, bird-based model, to generate the emotions, and finally we're able to generate the response. Right. On the right hand side, you see like how we have gone about mining the data from our client database, and generating the subject lines at segment level, right, vertical level, and this insights data keeps getting generated, right? So this is actually helping us a lot by personalizing the subject lines and campaigns. We are actually seeing a very high open rate, right? So the key challenges that we saw in this approach, right, was to basically like how do we ensure that the conversational model that we are using here, right, or the generative model that we are using, how exactly do I ensure that it is actually giving me responses, same responses every time, right? And also like it's reliable. So basically like one of the key things here to note is that we need to validate and provide some sort of validation schema to the LLMs to make sure that the responses are always in the expected format. And if it's not that, then basically you keep reminding the model that basically you have to follow this JSON schema or TypeScript schema, and also demonstrate the problem statement, and showcase some solutions, right? And we definitely have to handle a bunch of failures where you are actually re-asking the model, like Prakhar was saying, right? So why do we really re-ask? So basically you are trying to get the validation also out of the generative models, right? And as you can see on the right hand side, basically we have described the problem very well, and we are also giving it insights, like what all insights should it meet to drive better conversion, better open rate, right? And so doing that, we are actually able to get proper subject lines and proper prediction scores, right? And now of course you can also adjust the parameters to fine tune parameters to get the proper response format, but it doesn't always work. So that is why you also want to fine tune the model so that it actually understands based on the enormous data that we have, inside data. We are actually able to fine tune the GPT-3 or GPT 3.5 models to basically respond in a particular way, honor the insights automatically, right? And basically be, let's say, vertical specific. For example, if I was talking about apparel, then it would be apparel specific generation all the time, right? So we'll go into more detail and challenges as and when we like cover the use cases. But yeah, so moving on to, I'll hand it over to Prakhar to basically talk a bit about PIM and how we are solving the problems there.
Yeah. So PIM, or product information management, is one of the newer products at Netcore Unbox, right? So it's more like a CDP, but for product catalogs. So currently, say if you are a fashion merchant, you are selling your products on your website, which is perhaps made in say Shopify, right? You are selling it to various marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, and you are also running several ads on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. To all these players, you have to share your catalog in a separate format, in a different format at regular intervals, and it should be updated. All the information should be updated. So PIM lets you manage these with a click of a button. And also you can enrich your catalog using various AI features of PIM, as the quality of catalog remains one of the bigger concerns for the industry. So we'll just showcase you that how do we use OpenAI to make our catalogs more accurate and richer. Yeah, Kesharee.
Right. So basically, what we've thought of here is, we've been doing catalog enrichment for a while now, and what was missing was, linking it to a proper, model that can actually, given a click of a button, right, or rather just uploading an image, how exactly can I, generate the whole catalog attributes or, all the properties of a product. So what we do here is, let me show you a very quick example. So I'll basically, just upload an image and just call it out what it is, just one single line, right? So it's, let's say, black t-shirt, right? So as you can see, I've uploaded a black or charcoal color t-shirt, right? And now I will ask the model to generate this. So basically what we are going to do first is we are going to do the object detection here, and then we are going to actually, use those attributes that we got from the image model, and finally, finally generate the titles, generate the description, generate every other field that is out there that is actually required for this kind of a example, right? So in the interest of time, I'll show you something that has already been populated while this is getting, generated. So basically, if I upload a top image, right? So you can see image model has actually understood that it's a top wear, it's a polyester fabric, it's women, gender, and all those short sleeve, regular sleeve, and basically, what was the type as well. And using those, we are actually able to generate title, description, keywords. And not only that, basically, we are actually able to, generate a bunch of other things as well. So, right, so as you can see, it's come up now. So for the previous image, we are able to predict that it is a top wear, it is, and we are also able to generate a bunch of other things like title, description, and keywords. Now I will also demonstrate something that is interesting. So I can actually, you can see there's a gray background here. So what I can do is actually I can remove that background, right, using something like a DALL-E kind of a model, right? And I could even, let's say, I could blur this, right? I could generate some Amazon key fields, right? And I could generate some Google marketing fields, right? So all these tools are built into the PIM system, and basically one by one, or rather all at once, I can actually generate everything so that, we don't have to do anything. Basically, you just upload an image and we are done with the product, right? So your feed is completed. So again, going to the other image, so this is something that I had done. So the DALL-E is able to actually, generate the proper background, right? Whatever we want. And it's able to generate Amazon key fields, it's able to generate Google fields, it's able to blur the image, right? And it's also able to generate categories. So, right. And here we are using a bunch of models that are some of them are generative AI models, some of them are open source, some of them are, in-house models, right? So as you can see, it's come up now, you are seeing a white background image now, and you're also seeing a blurred image, right? And you are seeing the Amazon key fields, you are seeing the Google marketing phrases and product title that could be helpful there. So to sum it up, right? So we are basically able to do all this just by a click of a button and an image. So how exactly are we doing that, right? So going back to the architecture here, so what we're doing here is basically given any product catalog feed, right? We are taking that image, we are taking the text input, and we are passing it through the image attribution model, right? And we are actually identifying all those tags that are there in that image, for example, type, pattern, color, occasion, right? And using all that along with the human input that we got and passing it to the LLMs to summarize the product. Also, we are also combining, other visual generative AI models to, do all the stuff that is needed for visual edits, or rather, applying filters or anything, right? And there are a bunch of category prediction models that are actually helping us, predict the Amazon categories, Google phrases. So basically, this is the complete, use case of generative AI models for product information management. So yeah. Now I'd like to hand it over to again Prakhar for introducing the conversational search.
Yeah, thanks, Kesharee. So basically conversational search, right? So I mean, conversational search, it has really gained prominence with the rise of Alexas and Siris and OK Googles, right? All the voice activated assistants. And it has changed the way we communicate to our systems, right? And with the advancements of natural language processing technologies, now, I mean, this is where the world is now moving. So instead of typing, say, a few keywords, users can speak or type their queries in a more conversational style, using complete sentences, even natural language questions. For example, say instead of searching for weather forecast, you can ask, what's the weather like today? Or is it going to rain tomorrow? Will it rain tomorrow? So I mean, those kind of interactions, right? So and it really aims to provide more intuitive and user-friendly search experiences by allowing users to ask questions and make requests in a more human-like manner. And one of the more important aspects when it comes to conversational search is understanding the context. So when you are having a conversation, the system should understand that your current question, is it related to the other questions that you have asked previously, or it's a completely new context or completely new question, right? So that's what we'll try to demonstrate what we have developed. Yeah, Kesharee.
Right. So as Prakhar said, so the whole, like product finding methods are, being revamped pretty much. So people don't want to, search a lot and interact with the facets a lot, right? So what they're interested in, natural language or even, voice signals or image signals, so that you can actually find the products right away. And all you have to do is like just type in, speak your mind, and you get the product, and basically you place your order, right? So that's something that we have been trying to, build something like that experience. So for example, I have, pre-built this, let's say if I type in like, okay, I just woke up, do my breakfast shopping, what should I buy, right? So I would, let's say, get some suggestions like, bread, sex, milk, cereal, fruit, and all that, right? And I would also get, a bunch of price ranges that we have. Let's say we don't like it, so we can actually switch. So let's say I wanted to buy some milk products, right? So I would again be able to get something like that, similar to that. And basically, let's say what I did is like, I then wanted to do something like, I wanted something that is fresh and chilled, right? So I would get milk products. And if I wanted something that is priced under €2, right? So I would actually be able to pull in, all the products that are below €2 and suggest that, right? So let's try out one of those examples. So for example, let's say I say, what goes well with wine, right? Or other, yeah. Let's say what goes well with wine, right? So basically, behind the scenes, what we're doing here is like, we are trying to find out what exactly is it that users are actually, buying along with wine. So it's found that people buy cheese, chocolate, fruit, crackers, and everything, right? So you can see a bunch of options coming in here, right? And let us say I wanted to dig deeper into one of those suggestions, right? So let's say I wanted to buy some chocolates, right? So we'll see a bunch of chocolates getting listed. And again, we can drill down into like, what exactly do I want? Let us say I was in the mode of Lindt chocolates, right? Branded chocolates. And yeah, so I'm able to find out all the Lindt chocolates, but I don't see any dark chocolates. So maybe I would type in like dark chocolate, right? So basically, the intent here is that like, you just see the products, you type in, like, you speak your mind, and you are able to find out the right products. So you can see dark chocolate chips, dark chocolate coming in, and so on. I could actually go on and say like something like cheaper than €3, right? So that should come up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you can see all the products that are there are actually priced cheaper than 3 euros. Right? Now, going back to, what exactly we are trying to solve here is, a different way of shopping, right? But it's not that simple to basically solve for a different way of shopping like this, because what you need to do is like Prakhar said, so basically you want to understand the context, you want to understand like what exactly are the user interested in. Did they want to switch the context now? Did they want to apply a filter now, right? Or did they select some of the suggestions, right? So how exactly we go about doing that, and what are the challenges? So let us say a user query comes in, right? So, and basically what we want to do now is like we trigger our chat API, and what it does in the backend is first thing, it will try to maintain or look for the history that it already has got for that user, some of the historical insights, some of the current session insights, right? Based on that, it will basically do a vector search, or rather even before that, it will actually try to understand what exactly did the user mean. That's why we are actually using GPT models to be specific OpenAI models that are fine-tuned for, let's say, grocery vertical here, right? And we are actually able to bring in like what exactly was the search query, what was the final contextual query in the context till now, what were the filters, right? And what exactly did the user mean by that, right? So for a condensed query, or rather a contextual query, what we do is we do a vector search, and those embeddings are also again generated by a fine-tuned version of an OpenAI model. And we do a vector search and we find out the products that were there, and we apply appropriate filters, and we showcase the products, right? But again, when the user again types in, so we want to find out the same thing again. Was the context new? Was like, did he mean any filters or anything, or did he actually want to drill down on the search results, right? Apply some sort of price filters or anything, right? So, right, so basically that's the idea. And the key challenge that we saw here was the response is not being for, let's say, only grocery. It could also fall into, let us say, something like apparel industry or something like that. So what we did for that is basically we tried to fine-tune the model, and what we achieved was enhanced relevance and accuracy. Of course, it brought in a lot of domain expertise with the rich data that we have, all the analytics data that we have, all the domain level search results and everything, right? So you can feed all that in form of a trainable prompt and response format, and basically what you end up with is a personalized GPT model that is specific to a grocery chatbot, right? So this is how we went about doing that. So this is one of the sample fine-tuned model for, let's say, understanding query context, right? So what goes well with milk? So the suggestion is cereal, cookies, right? So I can have a number of suggestions like this, and I can actually feed it into the OpenAI model fine-tuning API, and I can fine-tune that model. Or for that matter, I could have also fine-tune the BARD models, or even Dolly models or anything like that, right? So and what exactly did we need to do for this? So we mined our data like I said, so we have a lot of clickstream data, a lot of catalog data, and using all that, we are able to augment the data and basically finally end up with a huge amount of data that is actually used to fine tune, or if need be in future, we can also build a domain specific model like from scratch, right? And then you do the model training that is of course right now happening on the OpenAI servers, right? And it's validated, and we generate the semantic cache that is used in the whole pipeline. We'll talk about that later as one of the challenges. And along with that, of course, our ML pipeline is also helping here and there. So basically, you want metrics, you want to know what all configurations are needed for a vertical, you want to have feature stores and artifact store and everything. So to sum it up, basically, this is a pretty complex use case, but now that we have a GPT-like model, we are actually able to leverage it in pretty much every stage of the model pipeline, and build a sophisticated model for a grocery chatbot.
Yeah. Just imagine, I mean, one of the use case, right? I mean, for grocery, so you can just ask it, I want to cook paneer tikka for dinner tonight, and it will find all the ingredients that you need for paneer tikka, and you can just add cart to all and just order. So I mean, that is the power of all this. Yeah. So I mean, continuing the conversational layer wala thought. Now let's move to conversational insights. Right. So basically, rather than simply presenting static charts and graphs, conversational insights aim to provide a more dynamic and interactive experience by allowing users to explore the data via conversations. Right? So what was my profit like last week? How has my revenue been over last few months? Can you show me a trend of traffic week on week? So basically, it enables users to ask questions, seek explanations, even draw insights, right? Just by asking questions, just like you would ask to one of your teammates, without the need to drill down various charts and do some complex queries or any technical expertise. We'll just showcase you a few examples of what we have developed. Over to Kesharee.
Yeah, so basically here the intention was to provide a proper interface that you can do something like you can type in natural language, speak your mind again, like the chatbot, and basically generate all the insights that you need. So this is something that like so where we are actually bringing in data from the first example, that was subject line generation. So what we have behind the scenes is the database that actually has this kind of data: subject line, how many times it was opened, how many times it was delivered, what was the word count, what was the title length, and everything. And basically based on that, now I can query anything on top of it. So for example, if I was like let's say searching for something like top performing subject lines with their insights, right? And insights like you wanted open rate, delivered, right, word count and everything. So I can see that basically this was the subject line that had the highest open rate, right? And what was the word count? And this is the same data again that we used to generate the insights for subject lines, similar subject lines or other recommended subject lines, right? And moving on, basically I could say something like, let us say which title length, and even I can make mistakes, right? So while typing, has the highest open rate, right? So basically it will just mine that data again and it will show me, okay, so less than 20 characters, right? So I could also try out something like, let's say, what are my top 5 subject lines themes based on open rate, right? So it should suggest me like what themes are actually going well. So as you can see, it's the fast delivery, and basically we are able to see their open rates as well, right? Again, if I were to talk about summarizing the campaign data for email subjects based on, let's say, so yeah, so basically again the intent here is that making users, or rather like customer websites use our dashboards in a very seamless manner. They just have to speak their mind, and we don't have to expose a bunch of consoles, or rather like pages where they can see only specifics, reports or anything like that, right? So you can actually do any sort of natural language query and come up with all the data that you need, right? So similarly, what we have done here is like basically, let's say, summarizing this, and then let us say I was to ask how are the emails subjects based on home decor theme performing. So it would actually bring out the open rate for all the subject lines, and aggregated data is presented to you. So again, like as you can see, the data presentation also can be very dynamic. And right, so now I would actually talk about how exactly we have thought about this problem statement, right? So yeah. So on the right hand side, you can again see a similar kind of data workflow, where what we are doing is we are mining our client database and we are transforming it to a standard format that is understood, or rather the model that we are using, we have made it work for that kind of a data, right? And on the left hand side, you can see the user input is given, and our prompt engineering service, basically we are calling it Insights Portal, is actually trying to understand or make sense of the user query, and all the while basically converting it into a executable Python code, and then we are basically generating reports on top of that. So here, as you can imagine, the most complex part would be again like the latency, or rather you have to basically revisit the responses again and again, or maybe retry a lot of times to get the proper response format, right? So how do we exactly tackle such problems? So one of the key things that we observed, was to, and by the way, like the proper prompt was something like this, like where again we are specifying the problem statement or user queries, and we are specifying what should be the output format or not. So moving to the challenges that we saw, one of the biggest challenges was to solve for latency, and this holds true for any kind of use case that we have, and specifically for us, where we are a product discovery and recommendation platform as well. So what we want to do is we want to support for real-time use cases as well, using, let's say, generative AI models or LLMs. So specifically talking about the previous problem statement, what we wanted to do is we wanted to retry, and we wanted to deterministically say that, hey, this is the correct format that, or rather the correct Python code that should be executed, right? So you again keep asking it again and again. So but what happens with that is, like, a latency goes down, goes out the window, right? So basically it will be very highly latent. So here the idea is to do semantic caching, and every time you see a prompt, or rather the LLM model sees a prompt, you keep storing its response, right? And basically and also you warm up some of the queries, of course, based on the previous inputs, right? And every time a new query comes in, you go into your semantic search index that is again generated by, let's say, OpenAI or some other open source embedding model, right? And you basically do your vector search and find out what are the similar queries that have happened previously, and based on that you are actually going to return the responses, right? And if you do not find that, then of course in the direct use cases like this one, where you are doing conversational insights, you have to fall back to your large language model or like OpenAI APIs, right? And just in case you are failing, you have to retry, there is no other way, but you can again cache that response and basically utilize it for future use cases. And this has significantly reduced the latency. And also talking about the same latency issue in other use cases that we saw previously, for example, something like a vector search, or let's say something like a conversational search, there also the same problem was observed. And what we found out was that, like, whenever we are doing search and recommendation use cases, we always have the option to go through the normal route, or basically, let's say, running a text search plus vector search, that is a traditional model based one, right? Whereas if you are actually going to use the context expansion using the LLMs or generative AI models, you can do it at real time only when it is very effective, or only when you have specialized models. And if you do not have that, so basically what we are doing right now is generating these responses and caching this behind the scenes. And whenever we are getting a new query, we are actually searching in our semantic search index and basically mapping the previous responses. So the key advantages of this system is data retrieval costs goes down by a lot, right? And you have to ensure that you break down your problem statement into parts, so that the cache hit rate goes very high, right? And of course, so like I said, so basically for real-time use cases it is challenging, but this is one of the ways that has helped us a lot, right? So yeah, moving on to data augmentation problems, right? So as Prakhar mentioned in the beginning, so one of the key challenges for any ML engineer or data scientist has always been finding the right set of data, finding a diverse set of data. If you're talking about a category prediction model, you have to ensure that all the categories are balanced, right? If you're talking about an NER model, you have to ensure all the entities that you want to build for are balanced, right? You have diverse set of data, you have huge amount of data, right? And to do that, what we are able to actually use, how we are actually able to use the generative AI models is, like, we have a lot of data previously beforehand as well, and using that we can actually generate, with the help of ChatGPT, of generative AI models, to augment the data into the right segments and augment it by a lot. For example, if I am building a product description attribution model, where I have to let's say generate primary and secondary attributes, and also I have to identify up to 50 entities for each of the primary and secondary attributes. So what I want to do here is that I want to have the training data that is diverse enough, and basically we are able to have it for a whole vertical. So, and augmentation looks something like this. Basically you have a description, you have a set of entities from the previous training data. You ask your generative AI models to generate 10 more examples like that, or 20 more examples like that, and you re-ask and revalidate, and basically finally you end up with a 10x amount of data that you already had, or 100x amount of data you already had. And that holds true for every other use case that we have, right? So name entity recognition data generation, category prediction generation, catalog enrichment, category predictions, right? Description based NER models, or rather visual use cases as well. For example, you have your object detection model, right? So for object detection model, what you actually want is you want an image and you want it's all the objects and bounding boxes in it, right? So what you can actually do is you can ask a model like DALL-E that is visually aware to generate similar images, or rather generate images with filters, right? So basically you are able to generate a lot of augmented data there as well, and you are at least able to scale it up to 10x, where for industries like furniture and let's say travel industry, we don't have a lot of open source data, right? So that's where this comes in, and we're actually able to augment the data and build our object detection models and attribution models that were actually one of the demos like them, right? And of course multilingual search and vector search also benefits from it. And wherever you have vector search kind of a model, you want to generate positive negative pairs for your embedding similarity models. So again, you are able to expand on the earlier data that is driven by clickstream. You are actually able to expand everything and come up with a proper data set that can be used for the model training. Yeah, I'll hand it over to Prakhar very quickly to summarize the limitations.
Yeah, thanks, Kesharee. So see, I mean, Kesharee has already covered few of these during last few minutes, but just to summarize and maybe add a couple of more points to it. So there is some issue with response accuracy. I mean, in the sense that sometimes it might give nonsensical results. So you definitely cannot expose it directly to your end users, and there has to be a layer for validation and quality control, etc. Again, similarly, consistency and coherency. Latency response time, Kesharee again covered that it's a huge issue. And suppose you are developing a feature which works more like a chat, then yeah, some latency can be tolerated. But just imagine for search and recommendation, where I mean it has to be within 100 milliseconds, you have to work around it, right? So I mean, semantic cache is one of the ways of doing that. And then again, you have a limited control over output. I mean, you can train it, you can fine tune it, and you can give it some examples, but still there is always a risk that the output will be very different from what you desire it to be. Right? And see, like any ML AI model, right? So there is a potential of biased responses. So ChatGPT, it has been trained on lots of text data, but at the end of it, it's a model, right? And so it will give results with the biasness of the data that it has been trained upon. So I mean, these are few of the issues there, but I think there are a couple of larger issues here, right? So one is that, I mean, people are using it just for the sake of it. So I mean, there is a huge FOMO when it comes to Gen AI, right? Everyone wants to use it, whether it really helps them or not. Like sometimes we are trying to solve a problem that doesn't even need solving, right? And second is that sometimes you need a smaller solution to a pinpointed problem. Okay? If you have to kill an insect, I mean, you're not going to throw a grenade on it, right? I mean, you can, it will work, but that is not optimal. So you need to create a smaller solution and use maybe OpenAI not end to end, but just as an enabler, and which one of the use cases will just showcase you, and then we will take questions after that. Yeah.
So very quickly, coming to this use case specific mid-sized model or large language models. So what we want to do here is, there's always a power behind specializations, right? So for example, if you were to do something like you wanted to cut meat, right? But you can't do that with a Swiss knife. It will just make scars. But if you have a meat cleaver that is specialized for that job, it will do a better job, right? And of course, there is a lot of other issues that Prakhar just covered, right? So reduced cost, enhanced accuracy, superior speed, right? And efficiency. So one of the use cases that we identified was Apparel's domain specific large language model that can be, and what does it exactly take to build such a model, right? And what are we trying to solve here? For example, we talked about grocery specific chatbot, so that's a fine-tuned version. But again, if I wanted to do a very small problem statement, for example, I just wanted to find out what is the query context right now, right? Using the search query. Let's take that example from the conversational search demo, right? So what exactly do you need here? So what you need is you want to scrape a bunch of websites that are actually, having apparel data, or you want to use that is the data with your company, right? And what you also need is basically you want to do a lot of data augmentation, again using LLMs or generative AI models, right? And you want to train the models. So basically, again, like if it is above a certain size of data or the architecture is a bit complicated, you are definitely going to need GPUs, and it is possible that you are going to need a lot of GPUs, right? But what we have observed is like based on the type of the problem that we want to do, right? It is basically manageable, right? And of course the cost is going to be reduced and expertise is going to be more. You're going to get more accurate results. So again, like we were talking about, so basically you don't always need a very heavy duty model like ChatGPT to do everything. Rather you can live with specific models. But what we can do right now is we can build these models very quickly right now because of generative AI advancements, right? Yeah, so now we are open for questions. Yeah, please feel free to ask questions.
Yeah. So Kesharee, I'll act as a moderator here. So people have asked few questions. I'll just throw them to you. So there was one question from Rahul that how are you able to detect the fabric from the image? Is there a way to work around non-visual metadata?
Right, so there definitely is, but what we have done is we have basically augmented our data for image attribution. For per image, per object, we have actually created a huge amount of training data using human labeling and using open source data sets where there is fabric mentioned for each of those images. And basically, based on the image embeddings, we are able to actually figure out what should be the class that is classified for the fabric. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. So there is a question from Munna that can I integrate tabular data model, that is SQL Server analysis service for conversational insights?
Correct. Exactly. You can definitely do that, and there are a certain set of plugins even available right now. Nowadays, you will see like tons of plugins being launched every other day, right? So there are a bunch of plugins that can actually directly you can plug it directly into SQL. And if it is a bit of specialized use case that we wanted to do, let's say a generic use case, you can always write your own prompts and basically talk to the GPT model and also fine tune the models to basically make it better.
Okay. So there's one question from Anshu. Are there any risk with sharing sensitive data with Gen AI providers, especially when it comes from, say, generating insights?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good question. And basically, like, so that's where you want to play it smart, right? So you want to know what all data you want to provide to the, let's say, commercial models, and what all data you don't want to do. For example, for our use cases, let's say where you want to build a specialized dashboard. So we don't really provided the data. We just provided the query. We just write the code and basically run that code on our data privately, right? So there's no risk involved over there. So again, it all depends on the use cases and the amount of PII that we want to share, of course. Right?
Okay, yeah. So there's a question from Gopi that in LLM there is hallucination problems. How are you solving for which parameter or techniques you are able to, solve this problem?
Right.
So, yeah. Hallucination problem is when you get different results for the same kind of input, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, how we tackle that problem is basically by asking more relevant questions, specifying that actually, hey, you want to do JSON format only, don't go and create something else. Or rather, let's say if we talk about the chatbot, right, the shopping assistant. So basically, you don't want to ask it to show me some products from like this and that and not be specific. If you do that, it will basically generate your own products and show it. So that is one of the examples of the hallucinations, right? So how do we tackle it? So basically we break the problem down and we basically try to keep it as limited as possible, in the sense like what exactly you want to generate out of the generative AI model and what you want to leave it to your internal workings. So basically, to answer your questions, so you have to break down the problem statement, and wherever there is a scenario that hallucinations can happen, you have to be very specific about asking the questions.
Okay. There is one question from Sumant. How does the integration of generative AI in SaaS platforms influence the customization and personalization of services for individual users? Can you discuss some of the ethical considerations as well?
Right. Prakhar, do you want to take that?
Yeah, see, ethical considerations are right now, quite prominent when it comes to OpenAI, right? And gradually we'll get a hang of it. But yeah, so I mean, so from our part, we have to be very responsible as a business user, right? So what we share, how do we use it as I think right now we are at that place. Eventually there will be various rules and regulations that will come in with respect to copyright infringement or deep fakes, etc. But right now I think we should only be acting responsibly, just like with any other tool, right? Yeah. So okay, so there is a follow-up question from Mumma. Generating summary and predictive analysis, do you have any example of plugins? No.
Not on the top of my mind, but I remember my colleagues using it actually. Like maybe I can come back on that on one of those social portals, if that is okay with you.
Again, similar questions on the data privacy and etc. Is it GDPR compliant, etc. But nothing more. Yeah, Sukriti, it seems we are mostly done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so again, huge thank you to all of you for joining this webinar. I truly appreciate your presence. I really hope that you found the session valuable and that at least learned something new. Yeah, and by the way, this was our first webinar as well. So yeah, so yeah, stay awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, and any of you are welcome to ask questions on the social media portals as well. And I would also like to learn a lot from all of you. So yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone.